Hello, and welcome to another edition of Grown Folks Business on a beautiful Thursday evening. Hey man, I'm always grateful. I missed you guys last week. I truly did. Life happens, and I knew it was a potential, and it happened that way. And I was just eager to get these three, what I call the three-part series of conversations to continue. But maybe that break was needed because I've had some opportunity this week to be introduced to some or reintroduced to some ways of thinking that I truly appreciated. So I just wanted to again, say thanks and just let you guys know it's always a pleasure. So Greg and Julia, welcome. Jay Dwayne, welcome. Lisa, welcome. And Danya, as always, thanks for doing what you do. So when I say three-part series, hey, I call it that, but I think these type of matters are things that I'm always wrestling with. It's just what it is to be a human being. It's just what it is to try to be a decent human being and to live a purposeful life. And, that is not something you just wake up doing, in my opinion. You have to kind of, sharpen those tools and make sure you keep them oiled and ready. Otherwise, they rust and they're not functioning properly. And you might be trying to figure out something that's easier to fix if you just have the tools already ready and prepared. So we talked about the noise of silence. We talked about being still, being aware, and being you, being who, trying to figure out those things. So what I decided we would steer towards now is the path. So tonight's topic is identifying your path. Do you turn the lights on or feel your way through? So do you like make sure that you kind of can see the next 5 or 6 steps ahead, or are you comfortable testing some faith? Are you comfortable just saying I'm going to take these steps and believe that I'm going to get to where I'm going, or how does it work? I'm a both and. I think we probably are all going to come to some conclusion of agreement on that. But maybe you got all the lights on in the house all the time and you always know where you're going. So there's no surprises. And that you ain't tripping over anything. So that's the topic for tonight. I kind of felt like these matters were connected, but of course it all is. I just wanted to focus on these I guess more internal ways of processing over these 3 episodes. So I'm glad that for the most part everybody participated. I think Greg and Julie, you won for the first part, and I maybe missed the middle. And Jay and Lisa always. And like I said, it's all connected. It's all things that I probably brought to the table into the space. But I just love that this is a never-ending conversation. Because as long as we're here, we should be learning. I think I've always adhered to that. It's my grandmother. So identifying your path. Do you turn the lights on or feel your way through? Jay, you like a little bit of specificity, but I'm going to ask if you can just work with me and see if you can process that. I'm talking about where you want to go. Please, man, please. I'm talking about where you want to go. I'm talking about how you see your future, and or how you see where you've been and know you don't want to go back to. Whatever that path is indicative of, do you do a lot of light turning on, or do you feel your way through? On you, Jay. I don't like radio silence.
No, my mouse had died. I couldn't click it. But it's interesting you say that, because I immediately thought about the conversation we had on emotions and feelings, that discussion. And I promise you, I'm not trying to be deep or anything, but when you talk about, do I turn the lights on? The light is always on, because that light is within me. And it's deeply spiritual for me. And one of the things that I am intentionally doing in this season is trusting my instinct, which means I have to feel my way through in this moment, because certain things reasoning just can't comprehend. And I have to dig deeper to something that is soul felt or spiritually led. And I have to trust that intrinsic instinct to guide me in this season in my life.
in trusting, because I get that, Jay. I think we get to a point in our existence that we realize we cannot hold the wheel, flip the levers, look behind us and beside us at the same. So at some point, you kind of just got to trust that the currents are gonna work with you and not against you. In doing that, and I'm asking you specifically, in doing that, what are the micro steps in the process? Because you gotta grab it sometime before you let it go, and then you got to come back. You know what I mean? Is there a way that you approach it, or is it completely right now in this season? I'm gonna function, but I'm gonna let everything kind of move around me.
I'm gonna go spiritual just for a moment, only because my faith has kind of been guiding me through this. And one of the things that I realized, in Ecclesiastes, Solomon said it best. And he said, it's vanities among vanities, all of vanities. And he was talking about, I had all the women, I had all the riches, I had all the knowledge. But when I think about my relationship with the Most High, it's just vanities. You know, and he goes on this whole journey. The whole book is about these journeys, talking about all the things that he's learned. And he just ended it with, you know, the conclusion of the matter is just to do the will of the Most High. And but one of those things that for me, faith, I realized how deep everything was spiritually. It was just about returning. One of the things that people miss more than anything is in the scriptures, the Most High said, return unto me and I return unto you. And so what that meant to me is that, Jay, where are you traveling if you don't have proper footing? Meaning, why are you doing this? Like, there were things that I was doing that I think I knew in the beginning, but I cycled out of that. And so now I have to travel home to find my center, to find my strength. And so I'm very intentional about my actions right now. Like, if I don't want to be in a space, I'm not just saying no, but I'm also exploring why no is even put on the table. If I am very excited about something, I'm not just going to do it right away. I'm going to explore me, like why, because you'll be surprised how much conditional programming we have done in our lives. We have cut off so much of ourselves because we get so goal oriented that we become less human. We start focusing on the end result that we forget about the whole experience of it. So I'm being very intentional because I robbed myself. One of the things that my divorce has showed me is that I put so much of my identity in being a husband and being a father that I didn't know what I was when those things were threatened. And then I also didn't realize how unhappy I was because I found it an honor to be a husband and a father. But there were several things I just didn't like. And it's okay to say I didn't like those things, but I did what I'm supposed to do. Well, now in this journey, I do want to do the things that I truly like and I'm truly passionate about. And it's my responsibility to explore my why, not every day, but in every action. So I'm on a journey of returning to me. Sorry, that was a long way of saying it. I'm sorry, y'all.
Hey man, that was perfect. Something that I was looking for that you were saying, and I was looking for this specific word, and I hope it resonates. So you can give me a head nod because I'm gonna go to Lisa. But I think a big part of what your path requires now is inventory. Things you thought you had, things that were not actually there, places that you thought you needed to be, et cetera, et cetera. So the inventory, I think that's a big piece of your puzzle right now, and I hope that fits. Lisa, what about you? Give me some understanding of how you identify your path and lights on or feel your way through, or what's been your modus operandi lately?
JD is Jay Dwayne is my brother. I'm calling you JD, but I've got the tissue roll. Okay, right here. Here you go. Because I'm going to go with what Jay Dwayne says. At this point in my life, I've given up the ideologies of how the world wants me to do things, and I have accepted who I have been made to be. So with that being said, I do a lot of feeling my way through because I'm entrusting the spirit that my Heavenly Father put in me for my purpose work. So case in point, it has been said that you're all over the place, right? You're everywhere. And at one point, it would have challenged me to think, am I doing too much? Am I too many places? Yet I now accept the purpose that God put in me. My happy place is connecting people to things, connecting people to things that they otherwise may not have access to because they might not be in the spaces, they might not see it, they might not hear about it. So if I hear about it, then I get access to it, then I can share with 1,000 other people. But I have never gotten tired from being everywhere. So that's my giftedness, is I'm a consumer. Y'all know, I think that's why we jive here. We're all learners. We like to consume information for of the betterment of ourselves and others. So the feeling my way through, I'll say, is 75% of my life, because I don't know what opportunity the Lord is going to drop in front of me today, tomorrow, or what have you. So to Jay Dwayne's point, I have to trust. I have to trust that however he designed me is his will. And if it comes to me, then I have to be ready to run with it. And I told somebody yesterday that the difference is, if something comes to you and you have access to be able to do it, then for me, I know that that was my purpose work. But if something comes to me and I'm too tired, that ain't for me. If I'm too hungry, that's not for me, because he didn't give me the ability to do it. But when people see me at 3 different events with 3 different outfits on, and I'm still in the energy, then that's my purposed work. The other aspect is, with the lights on, that's the purpose that I see and I can accept. That's the light. I see that that's the direction. So I'm a person that sees the goalposts, and then it's just in me to start from where it is that I'm intending on being and then work backwards from there. So that's the light, that I see the 25% that I know where I'm supposed to be. So the direction is the feeling my way through the get there by trusting in my higher power, who um I'm cool with now. But you have to get to a level of healing and acceptance to be cool with that, because everybody can't even understand that what's for you, Felton, is for you. What's for you, Jay Dwayne, is for you, Julia, Greg, and whatever that is. You have to have a level of healthiness within yourself to be good. And I don't even give people back the energy to say that might be you or what. I don't even take it. I just let them, yeah, want, and then I go do what it is I know I'm purposed to do, because I ain't even gonna give that energy. So I love this show, but Jay, the tissue, bro, the tissue, because I'm in my feelings already.
Well, I'm gonna probably add to your hopefully the feelings that lead eventually to the joyfulness. But the thoughts you have on knowing that what that goal is and what it takes to get there, etc., and starting with that in mind and working your way back. I love that, because you owe me about showing you some things about golf, and you're doing this golf tournament and all this other stuff, which Tea Time is sponsoring the golf tournament. You have to drop that date and stuff when you get a moment. But golf should be practiced and kind of conceived and thought from the inside out. So knowing, if you work on your short game, if you're a great putter and a good chipper, you can make a mess off the tee. You can be a little off target from the fairway, but you got to know that end game requires a special level of attention, and you know where you're trying to go with that purposefulness. Lisa, that's been a big point of conversation for me this week at these trainings I've been going to, which have been awesome. And I look forward to you getting in there, because I know that's something we talked about. It was really good stuff, and we'll talk about it later. But some of the discussions that we had and some of the things that we were exposed to, they were really highlighting knowing that you're doing something that is purposeful and it's serving of both you and the endeavors that you focus on. So something I think you and I were discussing the other day, Lisa, because I'm a big proponent of not being too scattered, not being everywhere. But I think it was us talking about it. It may not have been, but if there is some connectivity in those things, it was you and I, right? If there's some connectivity in those things, then you're not really everywhere because you're kind of doing the same thing just in different places. There's a high point of connectivity, and that was you and I talking when we were riding around the other day. That's important. That's not being scattered. That may seem scattered to somebody else, but that central focus is for the betterment of the community and your organization, and much of what we try to do here with NC 100 and everything else that I'm connected to. So people think I'm everywhere doing a whole lot, but it is a central focus. And a lot of times it's not repetitive in a bad way. It's just understanding that I'm getting to reaffirm and show a level of commitment to ideas and thoughts and energies and creativeness in these spaces. I get to have conversations with people that they don't feel like I'm beleaguering the point. I'll stop that there, but I definitely appreciate that, and as always, appreciate you guys' contribution. Greg and Julia, I am so interested in hearing you guys' process. I don't say this to be funny, but you guys have a little bit more life experience than us, which in this realm of question, in this way of thought, there's something to be said for that more, because I believe young people can have just as much wisdom as older people, but there's some understanding that you've experienced more time here. So what was your path? What has your path been like? And was it a feel your way, or was it I got to have every light on?
My words of wisdom: drive for show, putt for dough. Okay. My father taught me that, but I'm sure he didn't make it up. Gosh, in my younger days, I liked the light bright and on, so I knew exactly what I was doing, and I liked to plan everything. And I probably still have a little bit of I'd like to know. But I've tried to go much more along Jay Dwayne's paying attention to the inner voice, and that, I'm using all the cliches, let go and let God. I find that I can analyze something to pieces and using, lower mind or even just logic, intellect. But I think what Jay Dwayne and Lisa are referring to, that gives us that sense of purpose and real fulfillment, and maybe ultimately enlightenment, or whatever you want to call it, is paying attention to that inner voice. And that inner voice does bring light. So as Jay Dwayne said, we become our own light bearers. And also the path is not always another cliche, the path is not always what we think it is. So we can be headed one direction and get a big left turn. And so how do we handle that? What do we do with that? And as long as we have purpose and good intention and are acting harmlessly, soulfully, I think it's all good. It's just an adventure.
I know one of Gregory's favorite things to say is "do no harm," and some of these settings has been a big part of what you contribute. I want to make sure I mention the overarching connective thing to all of these past 3 episodes, and because you're speaking right directly to it, Julia, is the introspection. So that's going to be a question I ask next. But Greg, I want to hear from you. But that introspection is what we're talking about in these last couple of weeks.
Okay, just return back to something that was said earlier about homecoming or returning. Um, One of my favorite books that was given to me by a dear friend recently is called All Healing is Homecoming. And that means a lot. That's pretty deep. And that returning um, to our values, to who we are. I don't want to get too cliche, but so just leave it as that. All healing is homecoming. And that's introspective, that's meditation, that's not being dragged around by the voices and the noises outside of ourselves. It's returning to a place that we are um, confident in what we're hearing and what we're experiencing. So th- that is the light, I guess. Maybe that is the light. Returning home, returning to that place where what we experience when we're being quiet is honest and it makes sense to us. So I think that's all I need or can say right now.
Gotcha. I'm coming right back to you, and it may be that this just kind of amplifies that, Greg. But what is at the forefront of your mind when you are being introspective? For me, it's got to do with time. It's got to do with purpose. Uh, I like to think that I'm doing some inventory, as I was alluding to with Jay, as to what has been working, what is not. And if I consider myself a decent person, where did I miss the opportunity to be more decent throughout whatever things I'm reflecting on? So introspection requires some reflection, and that's a big part of it. But just what kind of comes to your mind at first? And time is a big one for me because we don't get a lot of it, and I don't want to mismanage it. So that's one thing that comes to my mind when I'm being introspective. But Greg and Julia, feel free to tackle that one if you're up for it. But if and I'll ask it again if you need to. What's at the forefront of your mind when you're being introspective?
Okay, that homecoming idea, that is not about necessarily blocking anything out. It's really opening oneself up. It's an inclusive experience. Homecoming is where, um, yeah, it's an inclusive experience. Um, when I am experiencing life at its best, is when I am experiencing the good in others, where I can see the good and the soul in the people that I am interacting with. And that's not with effort. That is opening oneself up and letting that light from one pass from one to the other. That sounds maybe too ambiguous or maybe unclear. But what happens is that I simply open myself up to experiencing the good in another person. And that's what I'm focusing on. I don't see the problem. They could even be discussing or complaining about their lives and the problems they got in their lives, but that's not what I'm hearing. It's not what I'm experiencing. What I'm experiencing is the good in that person because it's there. At the moment, they may not be seeing it, they may not be experiencing it, but it's there. And we can build on that. We don't have to react to the problems of the day. We can respond to the goodness that we see in other people and reinforce that.
I think when I think introspectively, but to exercise, I think the muscle, the way that you're describing it, to go inside is also to go outside.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes,
yeah,
sir. Good
and
job.
so
Yeah.
yeah, to interact with someone, knowing that this is a shared experience in the moment, and no matter what they're ultimately dealing with internally and what you're ultimately dealing with internally, this is a shared moment between two people that should be valued. And I think it's easier to see that kind of good disposition and that humanity that's worthy of our attention. Like you said, whether they talking about the worst of times or whatever, it's just it's a vulnerability that I appreciate also, Greg. I think that's
Yeah, there's the light right there. Yeah.
yeah, I think that's a really good observation. Julia, what about you? What's at the forefront of your mind when you're introspective?
Um, being being as present as possible, and when that happens, things like what Gregory was describing. Um, I'm like Lisa. I love connecting with people, but working on connecting with people on a deeper level, not the superficial level, but connecting with people in a way that brings out the best in them, and just having purposeful, intentional interactions.
Yeah, I think those things go hand in hand, and that being present, today was it today or yesterday? Was one of the pieces of the training I was at, and it was definitely not like, oh, you're taking notes. It was a different type of interaction that was concerned with being someone who's a leader in the community. And one of the things was of course, the 2 ears and 1 mouth, listen more than you talk, all of that good stuff. And that to me is also an indicator of being present, Julian. I'm a talker, but I'm a listener. And, some people try to take that away from me, say, you always talking. I'm like, but I'm listening too. I mean, I'm just one of those people that can kind of do both. But that is being present, really giving a moment for that exchange and that sharing. I appreciate those things. Lisa, what are your thoughts on this aspect? What's at the front of your mind when you're being introspective?
Ooh, you don't want to go there. In front of my mind is crazy. I'm always like, what can I do better? How can I be better to another human being and still honor myself? So there are times when um, I'm a I'm an African American woman. I'm a Black woman, right? And there are stereotypical images out there in people's minds and in their hearts about what to expect from me. And although that may not be me, I still may get confronted with a stereotypical ideology, such as when I am being direct or when I'm being assertive. Someone else may project their angry Black woman image on me. So what's in my mind is, okay, how can I honor myself knowing I'm not an angry Black woman, and also have compassion for another person's perspective based on the propaganda they've been exposed to, or their own examples of what their experience is. So that's in the forefront of my mind, making sure that number one, I'm being me and I'm comfortable with me, and I acknowledge that there are other things and other people's perspectives, and not just, well, get an attitude about it, because we all have lived a life, right? And you don't know what you don't know. So one thing I do try to purposefully do, and I didn't even know that I was purposefully doing it until so many people commented on it, is I often smile when I first start engaging people who don't know me. And once I saw so many people talking about, oh, I just love your smile, I love your smile, I then owned the fact that that was disarming them, that was giving them a level of comfortability and kind of taking down that angry Black woman persona. And then especially because I'm a curvy Black woman, right? So then they have this fat, angry Black woman persona. I mean, look, it is what it is, right? This is grown folks' business. I keeps it all the way real. So the thing is that I use my asset, which is, I know I'm kind, I know I'm nice, I know I'm a sweet person that is assertive and direct, because I don't have time for nonsense. So I use the asset of shining that through. Thank you, Jay Dwayne. Shining that through by letting you see this light through this smile and the brightness in my eyes. So I keep that at the forefront of my mind, that it's not all about me.
Love it. I think I have a T-shirt for you, and whoever else listening. I give away a lot of intellectual property here. I just hope it's returned to me from the universe. But you've got confidence in your contribution. Ain't nothing wrong with that. You know that you doing something that's worthwhile. You might as well do it with a smile and a little swag and say, hey, I'm glad to be here. I hope you are too. Now let's get to work. So I'm happy that you are finding that as a place for you to stand firm, smile. You do have a beautiful smile. Jay Dwayne, what you got going on over there besides capitulating and capping and being all nice and sweet to Lisa in the chat? So what you got over there that makes sense at the front of your mind when it comes to this thing of just trying to be inside yourself, be introspective?
No, I'm because of what Lisa said. It's like I find myself right now in this season in proximity to so many extraordinary individuals, and definitely so many beautiful women. And so, like, no, Lisa, I'm fat. I'm fat now. You ain't fat. And I saw you in person, and I was like, she is just drop dead gorgeous in person. And she called herself bumming the day I met her. And so it's like, some people just naturally beautiful, and it ain't nothing they can do about it. It's like society makes us feel guilty for being extraordinary when it's just our ordinary. So we find ways to dumb down our extraordinary just to blend in, when really part of the process of embracing who we are is that we're going to blend out sometimes. And that's okay. But I was just like, no, you're extraordinary. And I've always, like, when people ask me about you, when they look at the podcast, and I'm like, she's just as beautiful on there as she is in person. So yeah, I wanted you to know that for real. But the one thing that stays on my mind, Felton, is actually shalom. Oftentimes people use it as a greeting, but it's so much deeper than that. It's really about living life without any lack. And
can you explain shalom? Define it. Give it the attention it needs.
Shalom is a Aramaic or Hebraic term, really Aramaic, that was borrowed into Hebrew, that a lot of times people use as a greeting as to hello or goodbye. And so some people think that, even though some people also know that it means peace, but that peace component is a little bit deeper than what a lot of people realize. It means to literally to live a life without lack, to be complete, to be whole in all areas of your life, to literally live a life without strife in any area. And so this also comes to the borrowed thought when people hear the phrase singleness in mind. A lot of times when people think about single, they think it's half of a whole, but single in mind actually means to be complete and whole without any lack. So when a single person gets with another single person, is actually two complete people. They multiply, not add. And that's where people mix it up. Like when two become one, they're multiplying. They're not they're not adding it. So it's like, oh, it's two halves. That's in the better half is really a dig at the person, saying that I have a person that's unfulfilled. And I'm unfulfilled, and we're hoping to fill each other's voids, which set each other up for doom. But anyway, going back to shalom is where I want to be. I want to be in a place of complete peace and wholeness. I want to live a life without any lack. And that's my ultimate desire. And it's really about inventory, if you will, because I have also been separating myself from relationships that are bad for my health. And I'm talking about my spiritual and mental health, meaning you may be a good person, but you may not be good for me, in any area, even how you communicate with others, or even how you deal with others, part of organizations that are not really fruitful in nature. So I'm being very intentional about achieving this higher level of shalom in every area of my life, so I can just live there until I transition out.
Wonderful. And I'm going to stay with you for the next question, because that's the way this thing works. People bring up something and it immediately connects to the thing that I'm ready to transition to. And it just so happened that I'm 2 for 2 for Greg and Julia doing it earlier, and I could start with them. So Jay, I'm going to start with you in a moment. But I wanted to highlight something that you mentioned about being around people at this point and acknowledging that there's something extraordinary about these people that you're around. I feel that as well. I include everyone here in this space and everyone that's ever visited this space, and I include some others that I've just encountered along this journey most recently. But there is comfort in that, and it continues to be a comforting thing. I can't explain, because extraordinary sometimes is, supposed to shake you or rattle you a little bit. It's oh gosh, that was an extraordinary journey, or this is something extra, extra on top of it. But I'm kind of normalizing, not expecting, but I'm normalizing interactions that I can appreciate as being extraordinary, because I'm really kind of, to Greg's point, getting to that point of observing another person and interacting in a truly uh, human but intimate way. The shared experience is a critical piece of that. So I'm going to hold that up a little bit, Jay. I think extraordinary people are, for some reason right now, finding their way to my sphere, and hopefully I'm finding my way to theirs, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm coming back to you, Jay, because this question was one I was like, I don't know how I'm going to quite ask it, but you just alluded to it. So if you can expound or even go to a different level with it, but how do you process the confirmation of anticipated adversity on your path? You know, some adversity is coming on this path you're on. And I know you're talking about now you're moving away from certain people and et cetera, et cetera. But there's always going to be something. And Shalom, I hope we all get there in some capacity. But there's going to be adversity in that process. There's going to be something that is you just can anticipate it. And that's what the anticipation part is what I really kind of want to unpack, because I'm a person that sees some writing on the wall and I'm like, I know where this is going. I'm not trying to help it get there, but I know it's going. And then we find ourselves there, and it's kind of exhausting. It kind of takes the wind out of me a little bit. So how do you deal with that? How do you process that confirmation that some adversity is coming?
I really stopped judging the experiences in my life by just that. What makes something so full of friction is our resistance to it. And I have spent so much of my life trying to stop certain things from happening. You know what I mean? Going against the current. Well, now I'm gonna sail with that joker. And I think that that's the part, is just because something is uncomfortable, just because something is uneasy, doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. And just because something wasn't planned, and this is definitely personal to me. My mom is here. I wish I would have had her on, because one of the things she used to raise us on is always expect the negative and let the positive be a surprise. And so for much of my life, it was like, but it's also that too good to be true issue that created a complex. So now it's more of allow things to just be. Everything doesn't need a label that's rooted in something else, where you always have to categorize something, when the beauty of life is the ebbs and flows. And sometimes that's what we need to embrace. Meaning, I may not like it, but was it necessary? And I find now in this season is allowing things to just be. Like, for instance, I was chasing mentors. I didn't know what I was going to do with my business. I had so many people. There are so many people that are attached to my name right now who claim to be a mentor to me. And the only true mentor that I have had, especially when it comes to business, was Merrill. Not only did he stay, he became part of everything that I'm a part of to understand the psyche of why I'm doing it. You know what I mean? So if I would have gone with so much friction and trying to make things happen, I never would have met a Merrill. And like you, I am in my orbit right now. There's so many extraordinary people. Had I stayed the same Jay who anticipates every move, calculate everything, strategizing everything, I would have missed out on this wonderful orbit that I have now. And I don't even know what to label these people. Do I label them friends? Do I label them friends? Do I label them village? I don't know, but I love it. And I ain't even trying to figure that out. So when people say, how do you know them? That's not important. I know them. And I know them because I'm open to experiencing them without judgment, them without any type of pretense or any type of default, just experiencing them in that moment. And my life has been so great. And one of the most horrible times of my life, it has actually been the most beautiful song.
Absolutely, man. Shout out to Merrill Holloway, CEO NC 100. This is yeah, that's well put, Jay, in terms of thinking you have the people that you need, and that's all you need, and figured out already, and you can cost yourself something. Um, and how refreshing is it to actually be in a space and a place where you can let your guard down and you can trust, and the exchanges are authentic and extraordinary. Greg and Julia, you and Mike. So just remember to come to this point in whatever you're sharing of how do you deal with that you know something's coming, the anticipation of adversity.
I just wanted to say how much I appreciate Jay Dwayne's what he just said. It's more eloquent, and it's exactly where I was coming from earlier. Um, and also, Lisa, when you mentioned the idea of access, you repeated that a couple of times. There's a couple of I claim this theory. I claim the theory that there is a natural law called the law of access and the law of leverage, and they're spiritual laws. And the law of access is one that when we are living a certain way, doors open. And when we respond in appropriate ways, those doors continue to open. The law of leverage is we can take a good and we can multiply it, but we have to focus on the good and we have to appreciate the good. And that sometimes sounds like or looks like we're not paying attention, but what we're paying attention to is what matters and what will multiply and will build benefits as we go along for everyone in our orbit, has been mentioned earlier. Our world is what we create it to be. We had a dear friend who used to say, "Welcome to my world." And the people in these squares, I think, are all very intentional and are all creating their world. And every time we gather like this, they are welcoming us to their world. And that is much appreciated. I hope you all realize that. Thank you.
Real quick, Greg, that means a lot. Again, where we started and what some of your apprehensions. I'll say that word if I'm wrong. I'm wrong, but some of your apprehensions about when we first started hanging out in grown folks' business. What you just said just keeps adding into that space of why we here, why we do it. This is I hope in perpetuity. I hope after we're long gone, somebody runs across this on this world wide web of ours and gets something from it. That's what you just said. There's, I think, a piece of that puzzle of why we do it, why we here sharing this space and pouring into each other. So I appreciate that.
Appreciate it, Felton. I'll take that to heart.
Yes, sir. Julia, I'm gonna let you answer that question since I knew Greg was gonna do what he did. But it's hey, what you do is what is worthwhile. So when you see some obstacle or something that's gonna kind of disrupt your path, what's your way of dealing with that anticipated adversity?
Good. What I try to think, and it doesn't always work, but what's the lesson in it for me? There's a reason for this adversity. And I really like what Jay Dwayne said. When we label something good or bad, we're setting a tone for it. Adversity, we all know some of the best people in the world have come through adversity. Lisa, Jay Dwayne, I think we've all overcome adversity, and we're the people we are because of that. But I just, back to along the lines of what Jay Dwayne, what this show represents, I think it's about what the world could be. If we would just listen to each other and have conversations. It's so hopeful. It's such a model for what could be. Thank you, Felton.
Julia, you're jumping like way ahead. So I have to know if you guys can make it next week, or do I need to push this to the following week, because my topic potentially was on utopia. I don't want to spoil it, but what you're talking about is, a contribution towards that. So
I don't think we're available next week, but the week after we are.
I may just push it to this because you just brought it to the table. So we'll talk about it. Lisa, give me your thoughts and ideas about knowing that there's an anticipated adversity is coming, but how do you process the knowledge of that?
Oh man, I am so grateful for healing, because I used to react because you can see it, you can see a train wreck, or you can see where you're about to get run over, right? So instead of, I'm losing my light here, it's getting dark. Instead of doing my knee-jerk reaction, now I'm pausing and I'm waiting and letting some emotion settle. I know Felton appreciates this, his super logical self, and I am the yin to his yang, my super emotional self. And I'm allowing a lot more things, thank you, Greg, to work itself out. And I'll go back to that faith and that trust, because now that I've gotten out here, man, it's a mess out there. And especially a lot of us doing this community work need some healing. So it's a bunch of broken people trying to help more broken people and steadily breaking people. So I want to introduce them to my 7 years of intense therapy. But so instead of doing that, I'm just watching, and I'll just pause, and then stuff just kind of settles itself, because I am allowing my Heavenly Father to work a lot more things out, because I do trust this purpose. And I do trust that if it's His design for me to do what it is I do, then He'll fix this other stuff, and then He'll direct me on what I can fix. So I'm having to even watch the things I say. And before, oh my gosh, before a level of healing, if I saw some maliciousness in people, even a malicious act, I just cut them off. Like, no more, never, ever, not ever. But now I'm even having to pause and say, okay, that might have been a bad thing. And is there a box I can put them in, right? Instead of still just cutting them all the way off, unless I think that they're a malicious person. If they're toxic, they're just out. If they're just full of trauma, drama, I'm over that. But that's the stuff that I can kind of see now, that I did not pay attention to, that internal compass like Jay Dwayne spoke about before. I didn't pay attention to some of those yellow lights, and then blaring red lights because I just wanted to love people and like, okay, I can shake it off and whatever. I'm not shaking some of that stuff off. I'm letting some of it settle, and then I'm giving it to God and saying, okay, you work that out. And man, it's working, because there's some people, and I'm like, I know they don't think that that's okay, but but they do, right? They do. And so, but then I'm finding how they're just kind of disappearing on their own. And I'm loving it. So the faithfulness, and then the stop the reaction. And thank you, Felton. I tease you all the time for your super logicalness. I hope you'll take some of my emotionalness and kind of soften a little bit, because I'm hardening a little bit.
I dig it, and I appreciate you as well. And yeah, I totally acknowledge and everything we're discussing, everything that we always try to unpack in this space and share. You know, we're all fallible as well, and I'm much like you, Lisa. I was there, and that's what kind of you're alluding to with some of what you're talking about me. I don't believe in the cutoff of people, just because everybody should be given the capacity to evolve, change, grow, but not the way that I see them needing to. Who am I? I'm not I'm not the person that can say this is what you need to do to be the type person that's best. But if there's a friction and just we can't get along, I can't throw you away. You're a person, you're a human being. You just as flawed as I am. But I'm not gonna put you in a box of unforgivable, can't deal unless you are just a nefarious person, unless you're just a person that has shown themselves to be irredeemable. So, Lisa, I'm glad to hear that, because I know I've heard you recently in the last few years. I gotta cut them. I can't do it. So, everybody's not perfect, and nobody's ever gonna be exactly who you want them to be. And even if they were, then they're not who you liked in the first place. That's a whole nother conversation. But real quick, I just want to run around the space because I had two, I thought, really good questions left, but we ran out of time. So real quick, Lisa, starting with you, is it important to reflect on the road not taken? And think about the road not taken in both lights, because a lot of times, we think of the road not taken as the one we shouldn't have took anyway. But sometimes that's the road we probably maybe could have considered a lot more. So is it important to reflect on the road not taken?
I think all reflection is good. I do not believe in ruminating, though, because that's a slippery slope. So I think it's helpful, because generally you're going to be faced with similar situations all the time. So if you don't reflect on both prongs of those roads not taken, you just go keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result, which I heard that's crazy. So I do believe in reflecting, and then owning when you should have taken something and accepting how it impacts someone else as well as yourself, and then forgiving yourself, right? Because we can ruminate there too, and then get in our little, we feel sorry for ourselves stuff. But I don't believe, my therapist has this term called visit there, don't live there, right? Visit there, don't live there. And so I have to, I try to live in that vein. Thank you for that question. And this is my short answer.
Look, no, thank you for answering it. And you incorporated the other question. I seldom get through all of my questions, and I really still had another one, but that's not going to count. The accountability aspect is critical, and you answered that. So if you guys that are left, Greg and Julia and Jay Dwayne, incorporated how necessary accountability is in this also. But Lisa gave such a wonderful answer. You might just say ditto. I don't know. I thought it was a great answer. But yeah, incorporating accountability into your response to this, reflecting on the road not taken. Jay.
I think I do agree. Reflection on all counts and all fronts is extremely important. But you cannot be self-aware without being accountable. Accountability deals with ownership, and only you have to assume that when it's about you traveling. And so if you're going to travel, you need to assume ownership or stand still. So accountability should be integrated in everything that you do.
Perfect. Greg, Julia, incorporating accountability on reflecting on the road not taken.
Well, in terms of roads, long-term roads, I would say I am grateful that I've chosen what I have for this long term. We do, I think, a nightly review. We review daily and nightly, maybe momentarily, each action, reaction that we have. So we're sort of in a process of reviewing all the time. And one other little quip is to define is to define is to confine. So we stay away from defining things because we find that limits things. It puts a limit, puts borders on what's possible. It stops the action, it stops the creativity. So we tend to not try to define.
Ditto, Gregory, J. Dwayne, and Lisa. Everything was good. Reflection is awesome, but not. I love what your therapist said. That processing. That's a slippery slope. So, amen to reflecting, not processing. Thank you for a wonderful discussion. Great seeing you.
Thank you all for coming, and I think an easy term to incorporate into what Lisa so eloquently put together in this last statement, because it was perfect, is don't get stuck. Just take a moment, and if your hands get too sticky, go wash them, and then you can start all over again with whatever you're doing, but don't get stuck. Thank you all for just always showing up and showing out. Greg and Julia, appreciate you. Look forward to getting together soon. Jay Dwayne, hope to catch you really soon. Got to sit down and chop it up, get some business handled. Lisa, we always gonna be somewhere in each other's sphere, and I'll definitely catch you up on what I experienced this week. It was worthy. Danya, thanks for doing what you do. You all have a wonderful night, and if you're watching, thank you. NC 100. Lisa, when's your golf tournament?
Ooh. October 14th, Saturday at Gillespie. I'm excited, and I don't even play golf. What the heck is wrong with me? But I'm excited. This charity golf tournament is called Pink on the Green because it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and that's what we are raising dollars for. Thank you very much, Felton. Saturday, October 14th, 8 a.m. registration at Gillespie Golf Course, Florida Street, Greensboro. Everybody come.
That's right. Hey, it's historic. There's a lot of history associated with that golf course. And it's where I got into the game. Look, you guys have a wonderful evening. Thanks so much, NC 100 all day. And thank you all for just being a piece of this critically important puzzle. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you.